Hello, I'm David Harper with the BBC News. A strict new lockdown has begun in the most populous US state, California, as COVID-19 cases surge. More than half of its 40 million residents are subject to a stay-at-home order. Daily coronavirus deaths in California have nearly tripled within a month. People are banned from meeting anyone from outside their household, and many businesses will remain closed. This bar owner in Los Angeles says she's worried about the latest measures.
We feel that closing down the restaurants is pushing people into those situations, into indoor parties. They're going to congregate indoors with their friends because they can't be outdoors in a controlled environment.
The Irish Foreign Minister, Simon Coveney, has said talks on a Brexit trade deal, which are continuing in Brussels, are not going well. Mr Coveney said differences between the EU and London persisted over fishing rights, competition laws and how to enforce agreed rules. If no agreement is reached by the end of the year, the UK and EU will introduce tariffs and border checks on goods. A British minister, James Cleverly, insisted that could still be avoided.
A deal can be done. There is an opportunity to get a deal that works in the UK national interest, that also works for the EU. The one thing we have learnt from negotiating with the European Union is these negotiations often go to the last minute of the last day.
China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has said he hopes relations with the United States will return to objectivity and rationality when Joe Biden takes office as president next month. Our Asia-Pacific editor Michael Bristow reports.
China was slow to acknowledge Mr Biden's election victory, but now it's hoping for a reset in relations with the next US administration. Speaking to a group of American business leaders in China, Mr Wang called for Washington to change its attitude towards Beijing, seeming to express some frustration with the outgoing President Trump. Relations between the two countries have deteriorated this year, with Mr Trump targeting China on a range of issues, including trade and human rights. But Mr Biden has also hardened his own stance towards Beijing and might be just as tough.
8 people have been arrested in Hong Kong for taking part in a peaceful protest at a university last month. Most of the demonstrators were graduating students. 3 of those detained have been accused of chanting slogans and holding banners calling for Hong Kong's independence. They face long prison sentences under China's strict national security law. Officials in the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh say more than 400 people have now needed hospital treatment and 1 man has died because of an unidentified illness. Residents in the town of Eluru have reported a range of symptoms in the last 2 days, including seizures and dizziness. So far, blood samples have appeared normal. The local air and water also appears to be uncontaminated. World News from the BBC. The European Union's foreign ministers have agreed to adopt legislation similar to the Magnitsky Act in the United States. It allows the imposition of sanctions on human rights abusers anywhere in the world. The US passed legislation in 2012 to punish Russian officials involved in the death of the anti-corruption lawyer Sergei Magnitsky, who died in a Moscow prison. A court in Algeria has sentenced a prominent pro-democracy activist, Karim Tabou, to 1 year in prison for harming national security. Mr Tabou has also been fined nearly $800. He was a key figure in the protest movement that toppled President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. Mr Tabou was jailed last March for criticising the army, but was released following an international outcry by human rights groups. The Venezuelan president, Nicolás Maduro, has regained control of the National Assembly after his party and its allies secured victory in legislative elections. Turnout was just 31%, with most opposition parties boycotting the vote. Our South America correspondent Katie Watson reports from Caracas.
After casting his vote on Sunday, Mr Maduro said the election would mark the beginning of an era of recovery for Venezuela. But few here share that hope. While the government's now in control of the National Assembly, the low turnout was hardly a win. On the streets of Venezuela, there's an atmosphere of resignation. Most Venezuelans saw little point in these elections, whose legitimacy has been questioned both at home and abroad. The long queues at petrol stations, rather than the polling stations, say a lot about the state of politics here.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has inaugurated a metro project in the northern city of Agra. It should reduce air pollution in the area surrounding the 17th century monument, the Taj Mahal. The first part of the new metro will take 2 years to build. Eventually it aims to link the Taj Mahal and other historic monuments to railway stations and buses. BBC News.